The Nigerian National Corporation Company says it's looking for equity partners in terms of investment in the moribund refineries. Now, Chukwuemeka Ozuzu, senior associate at AO2 Law, believes that this policy shift is a move in the right direction, and then it also brings in more private capital investment into the space. Speaking to CNBC Africa earlier on, Ozuzu maintains that this is one positive change that the Nigerian downstream sector needs to witness. Take a listen.
The announcement by the NNPC that it will be seeking equity partners, technical equity partners for purposes of revamping the refinery represents a significant policy shift, because what we had seen in the past was that the NNPC or that the Nigerian government typically adopted a rehabilitation-only contract model where technical partners are brought in for purposes of overhaul, maintenance, and then the refinery is then handed back over to the NNPC. But what we've seen now, because over time that model has proven to be very ineffective, it has not yielded the desired result, notwithstanding that significant amounts of money have been committed. Recently, about $3 billion, approximately $3 billion was committed to revamping those three refineries, but they continue to underperform. That is not at all. So this model adopted by the NNPC presents a significant policy shift from what was the position before now. Additionally, it also aligns with broader sectoral reforms within the Nigerian oil and gas industry that was engineered or engendered by the Petroleum Industry Act. So what we find now is de-emphasizing state ownership, or at least commercial control of critical petroleum infrastructure. So this approach by the NNPC probably keys into that. And then ultimately, all of this is aimed at addressing the perennial challenge of local disruption of refined petroleum products within Nigeria. So the idea is that if these refineries are able to perform optimally and they are being spearheaded by the private sector, the disruptions that we'll typically have in the local market would have been addressed.
And talking about the local market at this point in time, let's also have your outlook for the oil and gas sector here in Nigeria, and also compare that to the west of the continent, looking at other markets we have in the region. For you, how is Nigeria positioned at this moment, now till the end of this year, and even looking into early 2026?
All right, so in my view, I believe we are strategically positioning ourselves. I believe that we are taking the right steps. We are putting the right policies in place. All of those now need to be matched with action for the policies to come to fruition. So the general outlook, I would say, is cautiously optimistic. Investors are still very much interested in Nigeria's oil and gas, as seen in the last few months with the spate of divestments and investments in the sector. So what that indicates is that the outlook is not all doom and gloom. There is still significant foreign investor interest in Nigeria's petroleum industry. What now behoves on the Nigerian government is to ensure consistency in policies, to ensure that investor appetite is continuing to be maintained at the current levels that we're seeing.
And talking about investor appetite, let's also look at some of the shifting blocks we have at this moment. For you, what would be the top key dynamics that might likely shape our near-term outlook and looming risks ahead?
Like I said, I mean, the greatest indicators would be, or what the investors would be looking out for the most, would be the government's approach to some of these investments. If investors notice a consistent, pragmatic government approach to the administration of the sector and consistency in the policies as well, policy somersaults do not help. So if investors notice consistency in the policy, it's going to engender confidence. Another thing that would attract significant investment in the sector would be attractive commercials. So if the commercials laid out before investors project returns in the short to near term, it is likely to instigate even more investment in the sector. So a combination of these two factors, what I believe would steer us in the direction we hope to be headed.
But when we also juxtapose that to the global backdrop as well, we are also having developments also shape pricing and financing conditions at this moment. Your take around that?
So yes, and that is actually correct, because what we are seeing in the global petroleum industry is that like I said, we are noticing some sort of cautious optimism. So particularly investors who are savvy, who have been playing within this space for a very significant amount of time, they are approaching the sector, not just within Nigeria, or globally, they are approaching the sector cautiously because of global events, what with the trade war in the US and all of that. So Nigeria is not immune from those factors. But what we can do locally is to ensure that we align our policies, we put the enabling environments in place, and I think we are on the right track as far as that is concerned.
And talking about being on the right track as well, we also have the OPEC meetings in sight for the month of November. We're already wrapping up. We are gradually inching further into the fourth quarter of this year. But for you now, Nigeria expects to revisit the OPEC quota and make a case for that. We'll have your take on that. And also looking at the planned listing for Dangote refinery as well. How much shake-up disruption do you think this would induce in the market?
Okay. So with respect to making a case to OPEC for the increase in our daily quota, that equally ties into the move to revamp the refineries to ensure that because ultimately the aim is for us to become net exporters of refined petroleum products. So if we're able to ramp up production on the production end, of course, by securing an increase from OPEC for the increase in our quota, if we're able to secure that and then ramp up local production, it would all segue into the government's ultimate policy of ensuring that Nigeria becomes a net exporter of petroleum, refined petroleum products. Now, on the listing by the Dangote refinery, we continue to observe how that is going to how that is going to unfold in the coming weeks and months. But it's certainly one to keep an eye on.